Yesterday we got to Perek Chof Beis Pasuk Hey. We're on to Perek Chof Beis Pasuk Zayin. Page 22:7.
1048.
1048. Okay, so this is also a another in the continuing saga of difficult to understand mitzvahs. 1050. 5 lines from the top. Ki karei kan sipor lefanecha. When a bird's nest you happen to come across a bird's nest. Baderech, that means it's not on your property, it's out in public property. B'chol eitzo ala oretz, in a tree, on the earth, on the ground. Efrochim o beitzim, chicklets or eggs. V'ha'em rovetzes ala efrochim ala beitzim. The mother is fluttering. 1050, Elisha. 1050. The mother is hovering over the eggs or over the chicklets. So then the halacha is lo sikach es ha'em ala banim. Do not take the mother along with the children. You're not allowed to take the mother and the children. Rather, shaleach teshalach es ha'em. Send away the mother bird. Ves habanim tikach lach, and you take the children for yourself. L'man yitav lach ve'arach liyamim, that you live. It'll be good for you and you'll live long. So you have over here, this is the mitzvah of shiluach haken, and this mitzvah is one of the very difficult mitzvahs to understand in the Torah. Because what happens over here is you want to take the eggs. Now we're talking about in a society where people, eggs, we're not, a dozen in a nice, go ahead, don't torture yourself. A dozen in a nice, carton, rather, if you got it, you take it, and what do you call it? You took the eggs. Nowadays, nobody in their right mind would eat. I don't know. Maybe I don't know who I'm talking to, but normally, most people, if they're in their right mind, are not going to go take eggs from the wild and start eating those eggs. Who knows what kind of problems you could run into? But the eggs that are produced by the companies and have been what do they do to them? They pasteurize the eggs. Nobody's going to eat unpasteurized eggs nowadays. So here the Torah is talking about a society where people took the eggs. I guess they had ways of pasteurizing. 1050. And this is considered an easy mitzvah. An easy mitzvah. Why is it not? Why is it an easy mitzvah?
What, taking the eggs?
Taking the eggs. Sending away the mother bird is the mitzvah. And taking the eggs if you want them. But why is this considered an easy mitzvah? For the same reason building a sukkah is considered an easy mitzvah. The Gemara says it's an easy mitzvah. Building, how do you like that? I mean, I've been out building sukkahs. It wasn't easy for me, especially when my 3-year-old son came out to help me. That wasn't easy, right? So why is sukkah, why is it an easy mitzvah? Says the Gemara, because it doesn't cost you anything. How do you like that? Easy is determined by money. It was easy for me, but tefillin's an easy mitzvah. I just wrote the guy a check and I walked off with a bag of tefillin. No, that's a hard mitzvah. So the Torah's definition is doesn't cost you anything. And you're doing a mitzvah over here. What's the mitzvah? Send away the mother bird. Now, there are different levels of understanding here. Why do we do this? And the Gemara says openly, well, if you're going to take the eggs in front of the mother, it's going to cause the mother pain. Says the Gemara, it's not the reason. The reason is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, send away the mother bird. There's a mitzvah. There's a source in the Zohar that says that when the mother bird is sent away, it goes up and it pleads before God. It cries in front of God's throne, and that arouses mercy on the Jewish people down here that realize we're in exile. That's what the Zohar says, what Kabbalistically. Here, the Torah says you send away the mother bird. Why? I want the eggs. And to take away the whole nest together, to take the nest, mother and children, is an act of selfishness. We're not thinking about anybody else. If I take the eggs and leave the mother could go lay other eggs and other people will benefit. To take the mother, just be careful, the camera's right behind you. To take the mother and with the eggs, all together, I'm hogging it all for myself. is an act of selfishness. So, think about other people. You're not alone on the planet. Think about other people. Send the mother bird off. Let the mother go build another nest. Don't. You have to be considerate. Yeah. What do you say?
I think that it's a prohibition in the Torah to kidnap. So I don't know if that applies to animals too.
No, there's no kidnapping. It's a good question. Is kidnapping applied to animals? No, unless it's a little goat. Well, there's a little goat because a little goat's called a kid. So that would be guys kidnapping. But sorry, that was terrible. That was terrible. I'm sorry. If it's sleeping, then it's certainly kidnapping. Yeah. Oh, terrible. The what do you call it? I don't know what happened. I must have not got enough sleep last night. So the napping. Sorry. I don't know what happened there. What do you call it? Okay, kids. So no, there's no prohibition of kidnapping by animals. Here, it's not a question of kidnapping. It's a question of, number one, there are different ideas presented by the commentaries. One of them is it's simply a Torah command. The same way the Torah says that you are not allowed to eat pork and you have to shake a lulav. Why a lulav? Why not an olive branch? No, it's a lulav because the Torah says a lulav. Torah says send away the mother bird. Not only that, according to some, from a halakhic point of view, according to some, even if you don't want the eggs, you have to do the mitzvah, send away the mother bird, even if you don't want the eggs. It's just a mitzvah to send away the mother bird, which is beyond, it's incomprehensible to us. It doesn't have to be comprehensible because none of it's comprehensible. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, send away the mother bird. Now, I did have a chance. This does happen periodically. I had a chance. I was living here when I first got married. I was living here in Malo Daphne, right up here in 105 in Malo Daphne, and a bird actually nested on our balcony. Now, the problem is, I told you, the Torah says, Lefanecha baderech. It's got to be in unowned property. It's if on your property, the mitzvah does not apply. It's got to be out in the wild. So this is a problem because I was renting this apartment and we had the bird nested on the balcony. So we asked the posek what to do because the bird was there and there were eggs. The bird actually laid eggs. So the posek said what we should do is make the balcony hefker. You declare the balcony ownerless, which again, all of these is questionable whether it works. But they said make the balcony ownerless and then do it. But do it during the day. When did he say to do it? Do it at night because the father's on the bird during the day. And do it at night. So I remember it was this pigeon, it had bird. So I remember I called up one of the guys from the yeshiva to come up to my house because I was nervous that I would be attacked by this man-eating pigeon when I went for the birds. I am one of the faint of heart. So I had the guy standing there with a broom just in case the pigeon attacked me. This is a really impressive display of courage. And so I basically, as I touched the board, they nested behind the board, I touched the board, the mother bird flew away. So maybe I fulfilled the mitzvah, maybe I didn't. But it has to be on unowned property in order for the mitzvah to apply. And according to some of the poskim, according to the halacha, even if you don't want the eggs. What I did is I sent off the mother bird, I picked up the eggs to make a kinyan, they had been chicklets at the time. They were chicklets. They were chicklets. I was terrified. I just picked up these chicklets, these man-eating chicklets, and I was, I picked them up, and I'm not an animal guy, and what do you call it? And then they eventually grew up and they flew away. There was okay. Now there's another idea here, and the idea is like this: where is the mother at the time? So the halacha is if the mother is not touching, the mother's hovering over the nest. And it's not, there's a halachic line where it's considered hovering with if its feathers are touching the eggs or not. If the mother is touching, is what the Torah says, rovetzes ala Ephraim. How does the roosting? If the mother is roosting. Now there's a line where it's considered roosting, a line where it's no longer roosting. If the mother is roosting, you can't take the mother. And one of the commentators explains why. Because a mother, she's devoting herself to her children. I mean, she's there guarding her children. And you're going to come over now and take advantage of the mother's selflessness. The Torah says, don't take advantage of the mother's selflessness. The mother's being selfless right now. She's giving herself to her children. Don't take advantage of somebody who's put themselves in a compromised position for the benefit of somebody else. And therefore the Torah says, don't take the mother. That's one of the explanations. Hold on. I'll get to the questions. Hold on the questions in the meantime. There's another commentary that says that, we live in a society. The society is a more or less what we would call a selfish society. Not more or less. More. It's a selfish society. And I remember reading this. Women, they want to be men. They want to act like men. Time magazine, going back a ways, Time magazine had a write-up on a bunch of women, few women, who they bought into the feminist movement. They never got married. They were in their early 40s. And they realized they're never going to get married, never have a family. And they were very resentful. They bought into this idea of, go out there into the man's world and, make yourself somebody and be somebody, and that's all. And all of a sudden they're looking back and saying, where are we here? And the Torah is telling you that a woman, what sets this mother bird free? The very fact that she's a mother, that's her freedom. That's her freedom. In other words, being a mother, sometimes I ask a guy, I meet a guy, usually young guys, I say, hi, what are your parents? He says, well, my dad's an accountant, my mother doesn't do anything. Mothers love hearing that. She doesn't do anything. She's a housewife. What do they call it now? You can't say housewife. What do you call it? A homemaker. She's a homemaker. We used to say a housewife, right? She's a homemaker. So, and it's hard. A mother, she's doing a million and one things. She's what the word multitasking. Like nobody. And she works her kishka's out from morning to night. You ever see a frum woman getting ready for Shabbos? A frum woman getting ready for Shabbos? No man could do that. She's up at 5 o'clock Friday. This is after cooking Thursday, and sometimes on Wednesday. And she's up at Friday, 5 o'clock Shabbos morning, working to the last minute. If Shabbos starts at 6 o'clock, she works till 5:30. If Shabbos would start at 4 o'clock, she works till 3. It doesn't matter. She's going to clean, cake, bake it. No man could do that. We would pass out after 20 minutes, right? No man could keep up with them. Yet that's her freedom. That's what sets her free as a person, is that she's the mother. What sets this bird free? Because you were behaving as a mother. You were in mother mode. That's why the Torah set her free. It's a lesson to us. And in a selfish society where people say, I want to live for myself, Torah comes along and Torah says, that's the lesson. That's the lesson that comes from here. Alicia, what are we going to ask?
Is it a sword while she's taking care of her child to take her? Or is
you can't take her. You have to send her away.
Okay, so
and you can't take them together.
Care of the babies is not a sword to send her away.
Yeah, that's what the mitzvah is.
Okay,
the mitzvah is to send her away. Set her free and then take the babies.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the mitzvah is. Look at the next pasuk, very next pasuk. Kisivna bayis chodosh, when you build a new house. So the Torah says, if you build a home, so that you have a roof. Now in those days, the roofs were not, they even built sukkahs on their roofs in those days. The Gemara says they used to build a sukkah on the roof. For our homes, if you would build a sukkah on a roof like this, sleeping in the sukkah would be quite a challenge, wouldn't it? Yeah, can you imagine? You go to sleep, you wake up on the ground. We don't. Most people do not build sukkahs on a regular. Their roofs were flat roofs. So the Torah says, "Kisivna bayis chodosh, yosisa maked legagecha." You have to make a fence for your roof. V'lo sasim damim beveisecha. Don't put blood in your home. Ki yipol hanofo b'mena, when somebody falls off it. In other words, you build a house, and on your house you have a roof. You have a halachic obligation to build, if it's a habitable roof, it's a roof where people could actually use the roof, as opposed to an inhabitable roof. If it's a habitable roof, you have a halachic obligation to build what's called a ma'akeh. A ma'akeh is a fence that goes around the roof, so that nobody should be on the roof and then fall off. Now, what we learned from here, first of all, is basic concern for other people. In a practical application, even if it's not by the letter of the law, is if you have a backyard swimming pool, a person has a responsibility to make sure nobody can get into the swimming pool. You close it in and lock it up and make sure that it's not accessible to people. That's just a basic extension of this. It's not in the letter of the law, but it's certainly the spirit of the law. If you have something that could cause people to get hurt, if you have something that's creates a temptation for other people and it's a danger, so make sure you lock it up and make sure that it's not in a situation, there's no situation where other people can get hurt. Here the Torah specifically talks about building a new house. Why? Why talk about building a new house over here? Why is it talk about when you build a house? Why doesn't the Torah just say a general rule, make sure people don't get hurt? Why talk about building a new house? Well, look what just happened. You sent away the mother bird. What did you allow the mother bird to do? To build a new house, build a new nest. Torah says you allowed the mother bird to go build a new nest, to build a new house, then you're going to have the merit to build a new home. That's the connection. So here, you're going to go and you're going to build yourself. Now, when you build this new home, make sure you don't fall off the roof. Well, I understand something. If I would build a new home, I would definitely build something where I myself, before I get to worry about other people, I also don't want to fall off the roof. Yeah, you go up to the roof of your house and you have a couple of beers, you know, or a couple of cases of beer. You know, hey, listen, you know, this could be a precarious situation up there. You know, I don't want to fall off the roof. Especially if you go, so of course I'm gonna. Why wouldn't I build a fence that the Torah says you should build? Hi, you can take a chumash. We're on page 1050, and we're drinking beer. I mean, we're building roofs. Sorry, help yourself to a chumash. Why do I need the Torah to tell me to build a fence? Why wouldn't I build a fence? Well, look at the previous pasuk. What is the reward for the mitzvah of sending away the mother bird? Look at pasuk Zayin again. Send away the mother bird, take the children, and when you fulfill this mitzvah, you're going to live long. Oh, I did a mitzvah. I'm a tzaddik. I did a mitzvah. I'm going to live long. So I don't have to worry about falling off my roof. Says the Torah, yeah, don't confuse, as Rabbi Gottlieb used to say, don't confuse trust in God with irresponsibility. The fact that I know I did a mitzvah doesn't mean I can therefore live irresponsibly or behave in a reckless manner. You have a roof, build a fence around it. Yeah, but I'm not going to fall off. Yeah, don't get started. Just build a roof. Just build a fence. Don't be so sure. Don't be so sure. And the Torah is telling you that we don't have a right to do things that are reckless. Included in this, by the way, is engaging in any activity that has potentially, for lack of a better word, imminent life threat. Anything that's an imminent life threat. For example, being a Hollywood stuntman, probably frowned upon in halacha. Not probably, for sure. According to one posting, downhill skiing is prohibited according to halacha, because downhill skiing could end. I know of cases. There was one year where three. I don't know if you remember. David Kennedy was Robert Kennedy's son. He got killed on skis. He was playing football on skis. Sonny Bono, remember Sonny and Cher? Some of you remember that. Sonny Bono got killed on skis, hit a tree, and what do you call it? And there was the world champion woman speed skier. In the same year, 3 people hit trees and they got killed. So and if you don't get killed on skis, so it's very easy to break a knee, to suffer a serious injury. There are poskim that say that skiing is prohibited. Skydiving, you know the old saying, don't you? If at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. So skydiving is what he would probably, again, we're talking about recreational. Anything recreational which endangers a person's life, climbing Mount Everest, those of you who were planning, I'll meet you outside, we'll go together in the opposite direction. Climbing Mount Everest would be prohibited according to halacha. I think this season alone, just this past season, I think over 30 people died trying to climb Everest. And this is to say nothing of people boxing. Anything that could cause, we have an obligation to guard our health and guard our life. And therefore the Torah would say that anything, that's why somebody asked yesterday about cocaine. Right, so remember, what was it, a couple of days ago, somebody asked about the halachic view. I don't know if you asked me if I had extra cocaine or if you asked me about the halachic view of cocaine. But the bottom line is that it's something that could cause a heart attack. And as a result, it would be clearly halachically prohibited before we get even to the other problems. So the Torah says that you have to be careful that nobody should fall off your roof and you yourself should fall off your roof. Now, other Mefarshim say like this. We'll take it a completely different level. Kisivne bayis, and this applies to all of us in this room. Kisivne bayis chadash, when you build a new home, that means you're creating a new station. Yeah, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
So, for people that use like drugs,
Yes.
specifically drug addicts,
Yes.
Are they sinners if they keep using because?
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, they lack connection, usually spiritually, which is why they use. They're trying to find.
It's like asking. It's a good question. Are drug addicts, if it's not their fault because they don't know about Yiddishkeit, is it their fault? It's like no different than asking if somebody eats pork because he did.
No, even if they know Yiddishkeit, it could be a religious guy that ends up in a rehab because he lacks connection and he is.
It's like anything else. If I lack connection and therefore I eat pepperoni pizza, which isn't kosher because I lack connection, I don't have the willpower to stop eating.
So is he a sinner then?
We're all sinners. If we're doing something that's inappropriate, we're a sinner. Whether you are considered a intentional sinner, unintentional sinner, a mazid, a shogeg, there are different levels of sinning. A person who does averes and didn't know better, so it's certainly not his fault. A person who has a more of a drive for something, once somebody becomes addicted to something, there are different levels over here. At the end of the day, he's doing something wrong, either unintentionally or he wishes he didn't, but he doesn't have the willpower, and so on and so forth. A person who puts himself at the drug rehab, that's the way he's doing tshuva. You could always do tshuva. A person could always do.
Like the odds are that he leaves, at best, he can get 2 years of sobriety. It's like 5% of people.
That's also good. 2 years.
But the odds are so stacked against him that he ends up using again.
It's
a battle in life.
So it's a battle that God takes that into consideration. The Gemara says, "Eina kodesh baruch hu ba betrunya in briosav." God does not make unreasonable demands. If a guy was born and raised in the seventh generation of Bnei Brak, there are certain expectations of him. A guy who's born in Sioux City, Sioux City, Iowa. See, he himself doesn't even know where he's from. A guy who's born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Sioux City, Iowa, and there were no Jews around, and he only found out about Judaism when he was 27. So there are going to be much fewer demands on him. A kid who's born in Bnei Brak, if that kid says Asher Yotzar too fast, then my goodness, what happened to you? Somebody else, we're just happy to make a bracha, say Modani in the morning. So it's all relative to who the person is, what the life circumstances is.
Certain expectations for each person.
Of course,
Okay.
of course, God is fair. He's not. God doesn't overlook simply for the sake of overlooking. Gemara says God doesn't just overlook things. When people say, well, he's a merciful God, he'll forgive me. No, it doesn't work that way. But he certainly takes into consideration who we are. I mean, a guy who's got low self-esteem, he grew up a White Sox fan, right? So he's got low self-esteem, and he just doesn't, he's just depressed. You can't blame the guy. He didn't know better. His father somehow taught him to be a White Sox fan. Finally, one day he'll do tshuva. He could break out of that also. That's the idea. What? So the way. By the way, I'm happy Colorado, the Rockies. It looks like they're not going to break the White Sox record from last year for futility. That's why I want. They even beat the Cubs. The Rockies beat the Cubs. I was actually happy because they need another 2 wins and 2 or 3 wins, and they won't be as bad as the White Sox were last year when the White Sox set the all-time record. So let's go Colorado. So now there's a deeper level here. Kisivna bayis chodesh. This is very close to what you're asking, David. This is very close to what you're asking. Kisivna bayis chodesh. When you build a new home, meaning a spiritual home, when you build a new level for yourself, which is every single person in this room. V'asisa makya legagecha. It's very natural for a person who is trying to advance in their Yiddishkeit to create safeguards for himself. I just overheard a guy saying outside, a guy said to me, I don't go to Machane Yehuda anymore. I don't want to be in that culture. I don't want to be around that sort of behavior because I want to grow as a Jew, and I know that that's not healthy for me. Another guy says, I'm not going to walk past. I'm not going to go to Jersey City because they have casinos and I don't want to get involved in gambling. It could be a lot of things. So a guy creates a fence for himself, which is admirable. However, v'lo sosim damim b'veisecha, don't cause. There should be blood in your home. Ki yipol hanofel mimena, where the person will fall off. In other words, don't create a situation where the very safeguards we make are going to cause us to fall. And what that means is that when we approach Yiddishkeit, there's got to be a certain balance over here. We all want to grow, and we all may have certain things that we wish we never did or never were involved with. And there's a temptation by the people who come to Yiddishkeit later in life. There's often a temptation, let's do this and let's be stringent over here and make sure I don't do this. And a person sometimes takes on too much. And as a result of taking on too much, then a person actually says, I can't take any of this. The Torah is challenging it enough without us making it harder than it has to be. It's a demanding Torah. It's fulfilling and it gives purpose and so on. But at the end of the day, it's demanding with their requirements. So if a person understands it, my love, you know how many guys have asked me, I can't keep up with the davening in the shul. The pace is too fast for me. And they're all bent out of shape over it. Do you really think that you're going to go to Gehenna because you couldn't keep up with the shul? You really think that's going to count against you? Oh my goodness, that should be the worst of error. So a person has to understand, who am I and who is that? Where? Okay, so say part of the davening. Don't say what you can't expect too much. And parents make this mistake with kids all the time in the religious world, where they're just too demanding on the kids. Let the kid breathe a little bit. I used to say to my sons when they bench, you know how kids bench? Benching basically looks like, they're done with the benching. So I said to my son, I used to say to my son, don't put on a show. Do me a favor, don't put on a show for me. Say the first paragraph, and that's it. But say every word. It's finished. Sometimes you go to a show, whoa, land speed record. You gotta say the words. You can't do it all, so don't do it all. So we can't break any of the prohibitions. But when it comes to growing, guys, gotta stay balanced over here. You gotta stay balanced. You gotta have, the acid test is that if you're doing this and you feel upbeat, not all the time. We don't always feel upbeat. Yesterday my wife took my credit card. I wasn't feeling so upbeat. I was feeling beat up. But if in general in Yiddishkeit you're feeling upbeat, you're in a good mood, your interpersonal relationships are going well with people, and you're probably doing the right thing. If you're tense and nervous and you're snapping at people because you're putting yourself under pressure, then you just fell off your own house. And the safeguards you made were not proper safeguards. Guy comes over and says, you're taking on this stringency and this guy, I'm going to go to the mikveh and I'm going to go to that, I'm going to go. Are you sure? You sure? It's not required according to the letter of the law. It's not a halacha. You're taking on extra. Do me a favor. Do one thing. They used to ask Rav Scheinberg, that's always one of the Gedolei Ador. People say, what kind of stringency should I take on? Rav Scheinberg said, just don't talk Lashon Hara. That'll be good. That's by the letter of the law. Huh? A great start. It's not only a great start. It's a start. It's a start and it's a finish. Yeah. If you do that, you're a great man. Don't worry about stringencies. And therefore, I've seen it. I've seen where guys take too much, too fast, at every level. Too much, too fast. So the Torah is telling you, make sure your own safeguards don't become the very thing that puts you off the roof. Okay. Now take a look at the next three psukim over here. So this we've spoken about in the past, but it's such a fascinating concept. The Torah says, number one, lo sachrosh b'shor uv'chamor yachdav. Don't plow with an ox or a donkey together. And Rashi points out over here it applies to any mixed species. You're not allowed to plow. Where is it? It's the left column. Hu hadin l'chol, left column right in the middle of Rashi. He says, Lo sachros v'shor v'chamor, hu hadin l'chol shnei minim sheba'olam. It means any two species. You're not allowed to plow with any two species. This falls into the category of you can't plow with an ox and a donkey together, right? A shor v'chamor. Why not? Why not? This is under the umbrella. What creates? What's the jealousy? Huh, interesting. It creates jealousy. You're assuming that the donkey is looking at, boy, I wish I was as strong as him. Yeah, wow, he works out, you know. Okay, it's an interesting take. The truth is that, I never thought, there is a jealousy here. That's not going to be the jealousy. We don't assume that there's a mental process here where the donkey is looking, boy, I wish I was an ox type of thing. The problem here is it falls in the category of what we spoke about yesterday, tsar balei chayim, causing pain to a living creature, and it works in two directions. If the ox is pulling and the donkey is pulling with the ox, the donkey is not as strong. The ox is going to have to exert himself more than if there was another ox there. Number one. Number two, the donkey is going to have to exert himself more to keep up with the ox. So there's a tsar balei chayim that it's an unequal, what do you call it? Which is, what's that? It's not a proper matchup, which is what always happened anytime my parents assigned my older brother and myself to get a job done, or my younger job other than myself. I was the donkey. Yeah, they were the ox. So it's not a proper matchup. And by the way, the Chassam Sofer says that even when you assign human beings to do a job together, if you assign two human beings to do a job together, make sure that the human beings are guys who could get along with each other and they're really a suitable match. You can't put two guys together and make them work on a project, and it just doesn't work properly. I saw once a guy showed me, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. Have you ever heard of tandem writing? Tandem writing is where they assign a class, they assign two people to start writing a story together. You write a couple of sentences and I'll write a couple of sentences. So the guy showed me a printout once. There was a writing class in college, I don't know what the class was. They assigned a guy and a girl for tandem writing. So the girl begins writing the story about, there's a girl named Claire, and she's pondering whether she should have chamomile tea tonight or what it should be because she's in kind of a blue mood, that sort of thing. And she's thinking about her former boyfriend, Rick, and then the boy takes over. He says, in the meantime, astronaut Rick something, he's, miles above the Earth, thinking about fighting the aliens who are coming in over there. And the girl writes something more about chamomile tea. And then the guy says, and Rick dodges the laser beam that vaporizes Claire and another 40 million people. He gives it back to her. And then eventually she writes, my partner is an immature moron. And you can't put two people like that together. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So that's included in this. Is that you assign people to a project. Make sure if you're running a business and you're the guy and you're assigned two people to run a project together, make sure they can get along together. Number one. Number two, there are meforshim that say that the tsar balei chayim over here is because the ox is a kosher animal and the donkey is not. Now, a kosher animal has 4 stomachs and they chew their cud. So here they are they're pulling a plow together, the ox and the donkey, and the ox is chewing. He's swallowing and then he's chewing again. And the donkey does not chew his cud. And the donkey is just kind of looking over like, hey, where'd you get that, bro? You got some more for me? Got some for me? And so the donkey's got to watch the ox eat. That's tsar balei chayim. Okay, now, that's number one. Then the Torah says, and by the way, this applies to any time, a wagon, leading a wagon with a horse and a donkey, any mismatch is prohibited. Then the Torah says, lo silba shatnez, you're not allowed to wear shatnez. Seber upishtim yachdav, the forbidden wool and linen mixture with all of the various halachas that go with shatnez. Then it says, now, Gedilim ta'asalach al arba kanfos kesuscha asher techaseba. You could put shatnez on the tzitzis, but you can't wear shatnez. Now, what I pointed out when we learned this in Parsha, I think Parsha's Kedoshim, if I'm not mistaken, where does the Torah forbid, where else do we find forbidden mixtures in the Torah? What's that?
Milk and meat.
Milk and meat is forbidden. What else is forbidden besides milk and meat? Not only you're not allowed to plow with animals,
Seeds.
you're not allowed to, when you plant, you can't crossbreed in your agriculture. You can't cross plant. And when it comes to livestock, what else? You're not allowed to crossbreed the livestock. You're not allowed to produce mules. You could use them, but you can't produce them. You could use it, you can't produce it. You can't crossbreed them. Crossbreeding is prohibited. Within the species itself, I don't know, but if it's a separate species, you can't.
Dogs are fine.
I don't know. I don't know if it probably that's I don't know. There's a difference between different species and subspecies. So a dog in a certain type of what looks like a dog, but it's actually more in the wolf family that you can't do. But a horse, for example, a horse and a donkey, you can't crossbreed. Two different. If you have different, I'm sure there must be, I don't know how many dozens of types of horses out there. But you could horses, you could crossbreed. Well, there must be right there. There must be there are different types of horses, but you can't. You could. There's a subspecies. There's a different species. That's prohibited. Now, what's fascinating is, imagine a Jewish man gets up in the morning. So first thing is you put on your clothing, and as you put on your clothing, there's a reminder: don't mix. Don't mix wool and linen. Then you go to breakfast. And when you sit at breakfast, what happens? Don't mix, no milk and meat. No milk and meat. Then you go out to your field, and there's a prohibition. Don't mix don't crossbreed your crops and your seeds. Don't in your agriculture. Then you go out to your livestock, and the Torah says, don't cross them. Then you go out to plow your field. It says, don't cross, don't mix. That means everywhere a Jew looks, your food, your clothing, your agriculture, your livestock, everywhere you turn, there's a sign that says, don't mix. Because ultimately, the Torah wants us to remember, we don't mix with the other nations, not physically and not culturally. We're not interested in their values. We're not interested in mixing that in with us, and we do not marry into them. And we're not interested in having, and the Torah is constantly reminding us everywhere. Two of you have another place where the Torah says it? What's that? A mechitza is not a Torah law. A mechitza is not a Torah law. A mechitza it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, make a mechitza, but it is a halachic requirement that the men and women have to be separated in shul. Don't make it. Right. Why? That's a very interesting thing about a mechitza, by the way. You see, many times feminists or those who wish to be men, they are upset that the mechitza makes women feel like a second-rate citizen. They're in the shul, they're behind the mechitza or up in the balcony, wherever it is. I don't know. When I went to movies, I always sat in the balcony, you got a better view. But okay, and they're upset. So, I want to ask you a question. It's a very important concept. Any time we pass judgment on anything, a lot depends on. Let me ask you a question. There's a door in the cockpit of every plane. Is that door help you or that door hinders you? You, the passenger, does that door help you or that door hinders you? How does it help you? Allows him more focus without interruption. Not only allows him more focus, if that door is not closed, you're not going anywhere. The pilot, the federal law, federal aviation, the FAA law, is if that door is not closed completely, he can't start flying the plane. In mid-flight, he could come out if he needs to go to the bathroom or he wants to get at some of the delicious airplane food. But or they bring it into him. Do you know the pilots, by the way, they don't do, if there are two pilots, they don't serve them the same meal? Do you know that? Because in case the food is food poison. That's very reassuring for us passengers. But okay, what are we eating? All right, but we eat the delicious kosher meals. While they're being served their ribeye steak. We get that. You get those 2 bites of ground meat. Mixed in with the noodles. Okay, well, we'll worry about that at a different time. At the end of the day, until that door closes, you're not going anywhere. Now that means that I was going to say your point of departure, but I don't mean on your plane. The point of departure in the concept is that door, if I'm sitting on the plane, I want that mechitza up there, otherwise we don't go anywhere. Now, is that mechitza working in my benefit? It's working against me. Okay. Now, what's our point of departure in a shul? Is my point of departure that it's perfectly okay for men and women to sit together, and therefore the mechitza makes them feel bad? Or is my point of departure that men and women are not allowed to sit in the in a shul together? If I don't put up the mechitza, the woman won't be in the shul at all. So ironically, the mechitza is bringing the women closer, not distancing them. Because if there's no mechitza, they won't be in the shul at all. So a lot depends on what your given is. Given that men and women are allowed to be in the shul together, the mechitza becomes a barrier, and it's not fair to the women. But that's only because you're starting with that given. Given that men and women are not allowed to sit together in the shul to daven, then we'll do the women a favor and put up a mechitza that allows them into the shul. So the next time you go into the shul and you see a mechitza, says just, kind of stick your face over and just say, hey, ladies, you owe me one. Don't. You might get scratched by a bunch of clawed by fingernails over there. No, don't. But you understand what the perspective is. It's a question of what's the given over here. And therefore the Torah is telling you over here, don't mix. Don't mix. We're not interested. We're not interested in your values. We're not interested in your ideas, and we're certainly not interested in a physical marriage and an intermarriage. You do your thing. Leave us alone, and we'll do our thing. That's the lesson. That's the lesson over here. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah.